Hi. The other day I was glancing through YouTube and trying to find out the latest and greatest tutorials on what's coming up in Camtasia, and I spotted one from Kelly Rush who was talking about using Camtasia, Audiate and After Effects to create a waveform visualizer. I thought to myself, I wonder if I could do that with the tools that I have at my fingertips. And the answer was yes. So what I'd like to show you is that we're going to use Apple Motion with Camtasia to produce an audio visualizer, bring that into Camtasia and add it to our library as a HUD element, or we can use it as a one-off. Let's get started. I'm going to start a new project in Motion, and this is the project browser in Motion. You can see I have Motion Project highlighted. I'm going to keep the preset at 1080 HD. The frame rate, though, I'm going to bump that up from 30 or 2997 to 60. And there's two very good reasons why I'm choosing 60. Number one, I just love the laser sharp imagery and graphics that it produces when you record for video. And secondly, well, because I can. And I think that's a pretty darn good reason. I'm going to leave my duration at 18 seconds because I happen to know that's how long my voiceover is, and I'm just going to click on Open. This is Motion. I'm going to do two things here to help us out. I'm going to close my timeline at the bottom of the screen by pressing F6, and then I'm going to take off this grid by clicking on View and unselecting Grid. The first thing that we need to do is import our voiceover. And there's three ways of doing that. I can drag and drop it in. I can click on this button here that says Import, or I can press Command I. Here's my voiceover. I'm just going to double click on that. And you'll notice that nothing's been added to my layers group here. But if we look down at the bottom, you can see that my short VO2 track has actually been added to my timeline. The reason for that, audio has its own separate area here. And you could have multiple audios inside a Motion file and control them individually, or you can come right down to the bottom and use this master controller to control all of them. So now that we know that we have my voiceover attached, let's come back to Layers and start constructing our audio waveform visualizer. Apple Motion doesn't have the convenience that Kelly Rush showed in his with After Effects of just using a quick plugin. We're actually going to be, I don't know, a little bit more inventive. We're going to actually construct it from scratch, but the fact is it's actually very efficient. And the more you use it, the more efficient it'll become. So let's start. We're going to choose and draw a line in our Motion. And we're going to come down to our basic shapes, choose line, and I'm just going to click, drag that down and pressing and holding Shift at the same time to give me that nice true or straight line, and then just let go. I'm going to close this little dialog here. I need to alter some of the parameters of this line, and to do that I need to come to what's called the inspector, which is right next to our library here at the top, just below Import. You could also press Command 3. And you can see here that I have an outline, which is exactly what I have. What I want to do here is I want to change the width of this, and I'm going to change it from 10 to 8. Not a massive amount, but it will have an impact later. Let's look at geometry, and I only want to deal with 50% of this line, so I'm going to put 0 at 0.2, which was the bottom one, and that's going to snap it back up. And I'm also liking round numbers, so I choose 200 on 0.1, which will condense it just a little bit. The last part I need to do in this section is to go to my properties and reposition this, just because it's helpful. And I could actually click in X and Y and choose those 0, 0, but if I click on this little caret here, you can see I have this thing called Reset Parameter. And if I select that, it resets the parameter just for the position to 0, 0, and there's a Z-axis in the background to 0. So now we have the controlling element that will form every part of our visualizers. So let's get on and make those right now. First thing we need to do is get a bit of organization. That's always a good thing. I'm going to call this bar because it is a bar. And then what I want to do is replicate it. I want to be able to duplicate it, but able to control one element, and it imposes that on across the others. To do that in Motion, I come across to my top right to replicate, or either there's a shortcut key in of just L, and by default you get this busy graphic. And if we come across the inspector, you'll see that it's actually in a rectangle shape. If you click that, change that to line, and everything becomes a lot simpler. We're going to leave our start and end points the same, but I am going to bump up the number of points because I need it to be busier. In fact, I'm going to double the number of points. And the last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to choose my cell origin, or my shape origin, to come from the center. So now we set up the actual waveform visualizer. Let's hook it up and do the magic of how it reacts. To do that, we come into our cell controls area here, and we're going to alter just one value, and it's going to be in 3 different places, but it's all contained in here. We're going to twirl down scale and twirl down scale randomness, all the scales. And that one value is always on the y-axis. So under scale, we're going to come here and say 0. Under scale end, I'm going to reduce this to 50%. And under scale randomness of y, I'm going to introduce a little scale randomness, and I'm going to choose 5. Then I need to hook up the audio to this. So I'm going to come back to my scale y, move across to the right-hand side until I come to the caret. And instead of using reset parameter, which wouldn't help us at all, I'm going to come to add parameter behavior. And in this long list, I'm just going to go right to the top and choose audio. A new modal opens up, and it says my source audio is none. I'm going to come to this caret, and there's my short VO that we attached right at the beginning. So now that we've got our audio hooked up, why don't we have a look at what it sounds like and what it looks like? So I'm going to come down to my play button, click on that. Hey everyone. In this video, so you can see now that our audio visualizer is taking shape. What we need to do now is to make it complete. So we're going to come back to our replicator here. And not only have we attached the audio voiceover here, but if we come down to scale randomness here, and again, click on that caret, add a parameter behavior and randomize the scale randomness. That gives us a little bit more flexibility. What we're going to do is we're going to change this to 5, and we're going to change our noisiness to 1. Let's have a look at what that change is made to. Hey everyone. In this video, so you can see now it's becoming a little bit more random, and it's operating across all the frequencies. But we want a richer, more fluid, more organic style of waveform visualizer. So what we're going to do here is that we're going to take our replicator with all of its values, and we're going to duplicate it twice. So to do that very easily, we can either right click and duplicate, or just press Command D. So let's do one of each. Here's a duplicate, and there's a copy. What I'm going to do now is we're going to fiddle with the audio frequencies. And because our layers list is becoming a little busy, I'm going to click on this search here. I'm going to type in the first 2 letters of audio, and I filter everything by a AU, in this case, audio. I'm going to come here to my audio, my low frequency here, and I'm going to start at 1. And on this first one, I'm going to set the upper limit to 200. So you can now see that we're only taking these frequencies for our first replicator. For our second replicator, I'm going to choose 200, and I'm going to take that up to 1300. And for our last one, I'm going to choose 1300, and I'm going to leave the rest at the highest, 22,050. Let's take a quick look at that right now. Hey everyone. Not much change, and there's a very good reason, because all of these are sitting on top of each other. So let's select the first replicator, come up to its properties, and we're going to drag this to the left. We're going to take the top one, and we're going to drag that to the right by pushing that up. And then what we're going to do, we're going to select all of those using the Shift key. We're going to go to Object. We're going to come down to Alignment and distribute horizontal centers. And now we have them all perfectly aligned. Let's play that again. Hey everyone. In this video, we're going to look at, so it's becoming more responsive. It's becoming that more organic waveform. It's taking in specific frequencies. It's working for us. There's one last thing that we should be doing. Remember I said that when we made this line here, this bar, as we renamed it, it would control everything. That means that we can come into our shape here and we can change the color of that bar. So I'm going to change this to white, and you can see every single one has changed. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to affect the color of it. And this is something extra that I'm throwing in. What I need to do is to twirl up this group. I'm going to right click and select new group. And inside this new group, I'm going to come down to my basic shapes, rectangle, and I'm going to draw a rectangle around that. Now instead of color, I'm going to choose gradient in the inspector. And that gives me this standardized default color. But if I click on these three squares, I get a huge number of options, and I can add to those options myself. So if we choose lake bed, not a fan of lake bed. If we choose chrome, kinda. But what I can do now though is come in here and say, I want to drag these 2 or 3 things off here. I'm just going to reduce this down to 2 colors. The first color is going to be, think of that 1980s LED chunky thing on a stereo, on a boombox. We're going to come to red. And on the bottom end of the scale, we're going to choose green. Okay. See what's happening? Get ready for it. What we're going to do here now is going to right click on the rectangle and say add image mask. And you'll notice that there is a well similar to the one we had with our audio. What we need to do here is drag this group inside of it. And now, if I come back here, hey everyone. In this video, we're going to look at how exceptional. We have that clipping, that red, and we have the yellow that's strong. We're in a position now to export this and take it to Camtasia. To export out of Motion, really easy. Top right-hand corner, share. We're going to share an export movie default. We're going to call this audio waveform visualizer. Our settings are going to be video only. We need to have video and audio. We're going to use a high quality ProRes setting, but we could come down to H.264 to produce this an MP4, not a problem. And no need to worry about the rest of it. You can see it says it's going to be 2.25 gigs. I doubt it. But let's click next anyway. We're going to save it to our desktop and we click save. While Motion goes away and cooks that out for us, we're going to move back into Camtasia. So here I am in my blank or new project in Camtasia, and we're going to create the magic that really makes this audio waveform visualizer tick. So obviously the first thing I need to do is probably go and import some media. 3 ways of doing this. In fact, I've discovered a 4th one. Big green button, plus sign here. Also just right click anywhere in the media bin area, and you can also do a shortcut key in of Command I. So what we're going to do here is we're going to come in here to visualizer. Actually, I think it's on my desktop. There we go. I brought my audio waveform visualizer in here that we created in Apple Motion. I'm also going to bring in a photo, just a simple photo. And let's see what we have here. Let's do this very pastoral scene here. So I'm going to bring in a photo at the bottom, and we're going to elongate that out to, 18 seconds about. There we go, that'll do. And I'm going to turn that off at the moment because we don't want to get distracted by it. I'm then going to bring in my audio waveform, and you'll notice I'm going to put it on track 3. So there's a blank track in amongst everything else. Let's have a look to begin with what this looks like. Hey everyone. In this video, looking really good. I need to reduce the area of this. A very quick way of doing that is either to go to the top here and click on crop, or just press your Alt or Option key depending on your OS, and that way you can really just bring this into being. Let's have a quick look.
We're going to look at how you can generate.
We've got everything that we want. In fact, we possibly could just bring that a bit closer like that. The reason for this is because we want to put a background to this. Yes, we do have our video track in track 1, that pastoral scene, which we're going to bring in a few minutes, but we want to just customize this to the nth degree. And why not? It's Camtasia. Let me bring the playhead back to the beginning, and I'm going to come up to my annotations here. And in my annotations, I'm going to come to shapes. I've got my basic shapes. I don't have a theme. That's okay. And I'm going to apply just a rectangle. And with that rectangle, I'm going to just come out a bit further like that. I'm going to come a little bit higher, and you'll see why in a second. And I'm just going to draw that one up there. Now, this rectangle is white. White is going to kind of, it's not me. So what I want to do here is go from a solid fill to a gradient fill. I'm going to click on my color well here, and I've got my color picker up, and I'm going to choose a blue. And you can see that I have a nice gradient blue there, a little bit darker at the bottom, fading up gently as we rise up. Let's have a look at where we are so far.
Hey everyone.
Oh, we've missed some frequencies, so let's drag that out a bit more.
In this video, we're going to look at how you can generate.
Okay, it looks great. That blue contrasts against the green. If you know the old adage, blue and green should never be seen, because they clash. And that's actually quite a good thing when it comes to video, because it makes things pop or stand out for you. And we have that control in Camtasia to do that, which is fantastic. What I'm also going to do, though, is come up to my properties of my shape, and I'm going to reduce this down to 65. So it's got that semi-translucency coming through, and we'll be able to see just what that does in a few moments. Okay, so we have our background to our audio visualizer. We have our audio visualizer. What else can we put in here? Well, it might be useful to actually put in the name of someone or something. So I'm going to add some text in here, and I'm going to take this almost to the end here, but I am going to crush it down here, and I'm going to bring this up just a little bit further here. The reason I've left it here and here on the left and right sides is because of bleed, and I want this to be able to be utilized in any way possible. So I've just given it a bit of space to operate in. If we come to our properties and our callout, you can see that we have the ability to impose a theme upon it. If you don't know what themes are, they are magic. Absolutely gold dust. They allow you to impose in one quick click corporate standards or repeatable standards that your client or maybe your department wishes to have, such as text, colors. So a whole color palette can also be imposed upon this. Size of text, font, logos, everything that is connected to something that you're doing. We're not going to use a theme today, but I am going to change this to Roboto. Little change. And you can see that my size here is 72. I'm going to reduce that down to about 48, just for convenience sake. And what we can do now is that we're going to come in here, stretch that out to there. And the last thing I want to be able to do is come back to my shapes. I'm going to come back to, let's use this to raise our timeline up. I'm going to add a new track here, and I'm going to come here, place this in the center with the help of these dynamic guides, and I'm just going to come outside of, whoops, nope, says he, there we do. Okay, woo, that was good, but not in the good way that I wanted it to be good. Okay, so we're going to bring that there, and we're going to just bring that up there. Okay, beautiful. Let's see what we've got so far.
Hey everyone. In this video,
It's looking really good. Okay. I mentioned right at the beginning that we're going to be able to either A, use this as a one-off, or B, we could include it in our library. So let's choose the latter one and go for the library, the first one. First thing I want to do is probably just reduce the border of this down to about 2. That may need me to just re-edit some parts of it, I think, but that will do. Also, I want to come into my waveform visualizer here, And I'm going to knock this down to 65% opacity, which gives us another level of transparency going forward. And what I'm going to do here is actually come to my gradient color picker, and I'm going to choose a nice gray. Okay. So with these 2, 3, 4, 5, these 4 tracks all together, I have the ability to have an audiovisual waveform. I have text. I have a boundary or a border. I have translucency going on. I have all of these magic going on. But here's the key. Select all of them, right click and choose group. That reduces it down to a nested clip. The nested clip allows you to chunk things up in your video processing so that you can actually deal with things in a particular way. Any effect I now put on this group affects everything in the group. So first thing I'm going to do is probably right click on that name of group and say rename. And I'm going to call it Waveform, Viz. Okay. And there it is down there. Now, you can see if you are eagle-eyed over here in my properties that since I put that into a group or a nested clip, I've now got the ability to edit parts of it from outside of it. We have the 3 here, which means that as I go through this dynamically, I can actually change the background. There we go, something acid yellow to something that's neutral gray. And I'm sure you can get what's happening here. I can adjust the border, and I can actually just come in here and type in, this is audio. If I could actually spell today. There we go. And it's reflected straight away. So what do I want to do here? To put it into a library so I can reuse this as a HUD element effect going forwards, I just need to right click on my group and come down here from the penultimate option from the bottom, which is add to library. When I do that, it asks me which library I want to place this in. I'm going to put it in the default library. It says, do you want to use the canvas size or the visible size? And as we have this cropped nice and tight, I would say I would encourage to use the visible size. And you can see it's picked up the name from the group clip, which makes my life a lot easier to do. If I click on add, you can now see that that is going away. I'm going to come in here and delete this one in the timeline because guess what? I've got this one here. And remember, I still have all these properties that I can edit dynamically for this. So before we turn on our pastoral scene, let's have one more look at this.
To look at how you can generate an audio wave.
Great. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come here. I'm going to come up here. Oh, that's a bit stern. Let's see if we can bring that up. That's okay. I'm just affecting the border here. I'm going to do the call out. Let's see. Take that down just a little bit. Okay. Now, let's bring in our pastoral scene or our video track that we may be using and see what this looks like. So you can see why I chose that gray, and now you can see that I have the ability to scale this without affecting anything that's going on. So now I have this effect in the bottom right hand corner or wherever you wish to have it that can either be the actual voiceover or it could be something that is just a HUD element that adds punch, adds interest to your video project. One of the great things you can do here with this text is that you can have a call to action here. So you could put a YouTube link in there, you can put a web address, you can put something, a product name, anything you choose to continually have this aware to your audience. And that is how to use Camtasia, groups, libraries. We talked about themes, we talked about quick edit property in there, and bringing life one more stage to everything you do in Camtasia. Thank you very much.